Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at little CoffeeZilla second channel. It's basically gambling is just getting way too much out of control. I'm going to let Coffee here take it away and yeah, we'll get it going.
Prediction markets are not just gambling. There's also a lot of insider trading too. Here's the Kalshi CEO kind of explaining the goal here, which is that eventually we can gamble on everything.
The long-term vision is to financialize everything and create a tradable asset out of any difference in opinion.
Now understand,
You will own nothing and be happy is kind of what it sounds like.
and that guy who wants to make a tradable asset out of any difference of opinion, anything you care about, that guy just partnered with CNN and CNBC. Already, the news is embracing, we're bear hugging, entering gambling markets into our news. Just like ESPN put sports betting odds into their programs, and it became a big part of.
I mean, a lot of this has already been done because Polymarket, allows a lot of geopolitical bullshit like, will Zelensky wear a suit? And even though he wore a suit, they said it was technically not a suit, so nobody got paid.
The sports watching experience. It's all about, hey, what are the odds on the game today? What are the markets saying
What's
the
the
odds
spread?
are? And part of what I find so grating about this dialogue, the debate right now, is the insistence by these CEOs that they are not actually gambling. There is propaganda going on that they are something completely different, all because they found a regulatory loophole that allows them to be gambling in states where it's not allowed. So here's just one post that expresses that.
Basically, you're not gambling against the house, you're gambling against other players. So it's insane. Yeah.
He says Kalshi is not a gambling company, saying so is incorrect. I assume that people calling Kalshi gambling are uninformed. Is not a gambling company, saying so is incorrect. I assume that people calling Kalshi gambling are uninformed rather than being defamatory, but Kalshi is not gaming. Now, I want to point out to that guy that most of the volume on prediction markets like Kalshi is made up by sports betting, aka the same thing that people bet on, like with DraftKings, FanDuel, Prize Picks. That's what people are actually spending the majority of the volume on Kalshi specifically. Nevertheless, CEOs are bending over backwards, who, by the way, are financially invested in.
Exactly. Vlad has his own market thing, which is all just stripped off of Polymarket. I mean, you never even have to go to the casino anymore. That's why a lot of casinos are also hurting, because you could just gamble on your phone with bets on sports, prediction markets, and other bullshit like, will Bitcoin be over or under 100,000 type of thing.
Seeing a difference. They say there's such a difference between sports gambling and, prediction markets. Here's Vlad Tenev, who actually has prediction markets for sports, explaining the substantial difference.
Are qualitatively different than sports gambling for a couple of reasons. One is these are CFTC federally regulated event contracts. And what that means is instead of,
It's a derivative swap,
betting
right?
against the house or setting a line, this is an exchange, a designated contract market where buyers and sellers are meeting. So,
by the way,
nothing
by
can ever go
meeting,
bad
he means
or wrong.
they're betting against each other. But he's right that instead of betting against the house is pitting people against each other, and the house just takes a cut based on trading volume. So rather than
the house
actually
always
setting the line
wins.
themselves and betting against you, they're allowing you to bet against other people, and they're still taking a cut. It's just a different way to take a cut.
you're not, setting a line. So I think it's very different.
But it's really not, though. You can bet on FanDuel or DraftKings one thing, and you can go bet the same thing, basically, on Robinhood. It's both sports gambling one way or the other. And this has generated an interesting fight between the nascent upcomers who want to be in this prediction market game and the casinos who kind of are feeling cheated right now because they have to go through the hoops of gambling regulation. And so you actually saw the AGA, who I'm actually very against. It's a trade group for gambling, but I guess the enemy of my enemy is my friend for now. Basically, they put up their own version of a propaganda website against the prediction markets because the prediction markets are eating too much of their lunch, and they're like, hey, this is unfair that these guys have the loophole.
and it's showing more and more. Like I said, why do you even need to go, drive an hour, to the casino in LA or to Shumash, in, the, yeah, up north.
So they're now propagandizing and running ads for the fact that prediction markets are just sports betting, like they are gambling.
When prediction markets become sports books, they put consumers and the integrity of sports at risk.
That's what the gambling industry is saying, while the prediction market industry is saying, no, guys, we're not just that. We're a truth engine, actually. So it's kind of amazing. They actually both ran their own propaganda polls. Like, here's some AGA research that supposedly shows that 85% of Americans say these contracts are gambling, not financial instruments. 84% said they should only be available through state-licensed sports books, clearly arguing their point. And then if you go to Kalshi's website, they have their own propaganda survey. Quote, nationwide poll shows broad support for prediction markets. 9 in 10 voters say Americans should have access to prediction markets, viewing them as financial instruments, not gambling. Well, gee, guys, which is it? Can we figure it out? It's like the prediction market books and the sports books and gaming companies are like battling out over which is gambling, which is not. Of course, I think the logical view is that if you are offering sports betting, the same product as the gambling company, those two things are the same thing. I mean, you can't use your loophole. But it's a weird position to be in, to be agreeing with like the propaganda arm of the gambling companies. But they're now fighting against the propaganda arm of the prediction market. In fact, recently the prediction market companies have gotten together and created a coalition. It's like their own trade group called Predict Action. And they've partnered with Crypto.com, Robinhood, Coinbase, and Underdog. These are all guys who are getting in the prediction market game. And they said, we created the coalition with a...
Guys, what are we doing? Are we trying to just speed run bankrupting ourselves or being some indentured servitude fool for the rest of our lives? Like, what is going on? Why are we allowing this?
Simple mission: provide a voice for the prediction markets against adverse legacy lobbying groups, aka the casinos. They're fighting the casinos because they want to win and not be seen as gambling, so they can win a majority share of the gambling in America. It is insane. Meanwhile, you have the prediction market guys just stumbling over themselves for whether we should allow actual insider trading in their markets. Because that's a part of this that we haven't discussed, which is that these prediction markets are so grating in that they not only don't admit what they are, they also try to be something they're not, which is they say, we are not only not gambling, we're the news actually, and we are such a valuable source of information. Here's Vlad Tenev again expressing this.
I also think that, if you think about the news, right? I like to think about prediction markets as the next generation of the news. And we know the news is economically valuable. People pay for getting the newspaper. They pay indirectly for, shows like this through advertising. And so if you get the news before it happens, that should be even more economically valuable. So I think a lot of people, it's easy to just kind of lump it in with gambling, but this is a liquid market that gives people information in real time. I think there's a ton of economic value in that.
Yeah, you know what else gives people information in real time? Are sports betting odds. Like, you could make the same argument for sports betting. It's like, oh, you can get a real look at who's going to win the game by what all the sharp bettors are betting at that.
All right, guys, here's a fun little thing I just did. I just ran this query through AI, and I said, how messed up is, prediction markets? And it gave me an answer that prediction markets include major platforms like Polymarket, Kalshi, and Kalshi are considered messed up due to significant issues with low liquidity, high potential for manipulation, legal, regulatory uncertainty, and questionable accuracy. They are often described as closer to gambling than reliable forecasting tools. Like I said, low liquidity, despite appearances, trade total volumes for many events are small. And of course, whales basically place big bets, which then skews the odds. Questionable legality and regulation, that the legal status of U.S. citizens ambiguous and subject ongoing to Litigation and Communication of the Trading Commission, CFTC. Polymarket specifically settled with the CFTC and blocked U.S. residents from using its main platform, fining the company $1.4 million in 2022. Other platforms like CalSheep, Predict are also going into legal limbo. There are red flags with conflict of interest regarding the governance of these platforms. Polymarket CEO has close ties to the Trump camp, and major investors are significant political donors. Yeah, nothing weird or odd there, which raises a lot of questions about the blurring lines between political agendas and business judgment. And the accuracy concerns. Historical prediction markets have mixed track records, sometimes failing to predict major events like the Brexit vote or past U.S. presidential elections accurately. Despite claims of superior forecasting ability, critics argue they forecast more as a metric of sentiment or echo chambers rather than objective predictive tools. And the perverse incentives that there are concerns that these markets are predicting harmful outcomes, i.e. could be assassinations, terrorist attacks, could create financial incentives for people to cause these events to happen. So that kind of says a lot without saying
time. You can say the same thing here, but this whole idea of like you get the news early, the only way you get the news early, by the way, is if it's insider trading. Everyone understands that, right? All these prediction markets are doing is just aggregating sentiment on the news. The only way you can get something that's not in the news from these markets is if someone with non-news information trades, which is AKA inside information. And there's a funny moment where the CEO of Coinbase, who again is part of this prediction market new grift, he kind of realizes this and he goes, I was talking to the CFTC nominee the other day, who, by the way, may regulate these markets, and he was kind of trying to decide maybe we should allow insider trading because maybe that makes our product even better.
I actually had a really interesting conversation with one of the folks that was nominated to be CFTC commissioner about this, and he asked me, he said, do you think we should allow insider trading in prediction markets? And I said, it's actually it's not as clear-cut question, right? Because if your goal is to actually, for the 99% of people trying to get signal about what's going to happen in the world, like is the Suez Canal going to be reopened or whatever, you actually want insider trading. You want, some admiral sitting on a ship in the Suez Canal who has really good information to be trading so you get better, higher quality signal out of them, right? Now, if you want to preserve the integrity of those markets, maybe you don't want insider trading, right? So there might be like a decentralization test that has to go in here, but it's not a clear-cut answer.
That's right, guys. Maybe we want the insider trading so we can get the news of tomorrow today by encouraging people financially to go ahead and give us the news now, right? You encourage basically leakers because you financially incentivize them trading in your market and having an inside edge. I want to be super clear. There's a reason we didn't allow this in the securities market. I mean, you can make the same argument for like, well, what if we want the stock market to give us tomorrow's news today on public companies? You could just allow insider trading and that would tell you, right? The market would move before the news came out. But there's a lot of reasons we don't do that, mainly that it's cheating the average trader. But these new prediction market CEOs don't see it that way. They don't want to be regulated by gambling laws. They don't want to be regulated by securities insider trading laws. Here's the Polymarket CEO being asked a question about insider trading too. He seems to suggest maybe it is also a good thing.
But predictive markets do rely on someone having some inside information.
Yeah, I think that people going and having an edge to the market is a good thing. Obviously, you need to curate them and you need to be really clear and stringent on where the line is drawn and like sort of ethics, and we spend a lot of time on that, but it's sort of an inevitability that this will happen and there's a lot of benefits from it, and people will adapt.
Wait, what? What does he mean? It's inevitable that we're gonna have insider trading and people should just adapt to the idea that they're gonna be front run by some insider. I mean, is this not crazy to anyone else? Like, I saw on our Reddit the other day, somebody was like, hey, CoffeeZilla, you should expose this Google inside trader on Polymarket. And I was just thinking to myself, like, expose what? Like, this is explicitly part of the offering of platforms like this, is they say, hey, you're gonna get the signal early. How do you think they're getting this signal? Like, this is a feature, not a bug of these platforms. And by implementing non-insider trading rules, they're actually hurting the edge of these markets. Now, the last thing I want to say is that not all gambling companies see prediction markets as a bad thing. Actually, there has been a big split and divide at the American Gaming Association. DraftKings and FanDuel recently dropped out. This is the NCAA president saying, I'd be willing to conclude that that's a big part of their reasoning, is they're going to get into the prediction market space. They can't afford to let those folks dominate all that green space they can't currently access. Giving away the game, again, that this is all gambling. The whole reason that the gambling companies hate this is because they're stealing their lunch. The whole reason that some gambling companies are embracing it is because they see it as the future of gambling, because they can target more people at a lower age in more states. And when you actually hear the CEOs of sports betting companies talk about this, they say they think they have an edge in this space.
And DraftKings and Fanatics, I think we have such strategic advantages from the enormous customer base that we have to all of the experience. And we have,
Are you saying like an advantage over the Kalshis and Polymark?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so some of the gambling companies, the ones that are leaving the American Gaming Association, they're the ones that are like, yeah, this is actually great. We love this. We're entering this. We have a strategic edge because this is all gambling, of course. And so we're going to, of course, clean up because we have the most experience in the gambling space. The only way to really solve this is regulation, which we are absolutely not going to get clear rules of the road on, at least not ones that make any kind of meaningful stop to the kind of crazy takeover that's been happening. And the reason I'm willing to bet on that, ironically, is because of this headline right here. Trump media enters prediction market business. If you didn't know, the Trump family is getting very invested into prediction markets. In fact, you had Don Jr. Become the Polymarket advisor. He was also an advisor of Kalshi as well. Now I guess they're taking all that experience and offering a Truth Social prediction market called Truth Predict.
Yeah,
it's a partnership between Trump's media social network, Truth Social, and Crypto.com's derivatives of North America. It'll allow our loyal users to engage in prediction markets with a trusted network, while harnessing our social platform to provide totally unique ways for users to discuss, aka gamble, and compare their predictions. So our president literally has a financial stake, or at least his family does, in the prediction markets going well. And part of going well means keeping the regulatory sort of free, open ocean of opportunity right now, which means no regulation or very little regulation. So honestly, I have very low expectations for regulators doing anything. The very fact that they're debating with Brian Armstrong about whether we should just allow insider trading with one of the, possible commissioners is basically a giant red flag of what's to come. But I just wanted to cover this. I wanted to give people a primer on what these platforms are, what they do, what their arguments are, and the fact that they're fighting with the gambling companies over market share of our country, which I think is probably bad. Probably bad.
Grotesque.
When the casinos say, you're cheating, you're getting ahead by breaking the rules.
I mean, they're always breaking the rules and getting ahead, so nothing. They're always breaking the rules and getting ahead, so nothing new there. Yeah, times are getting rough, tougher than tough leather. I don't know what to tell you guys. Better just start learning to live at half of your means if you want to be able to save anything and make anything. It's not going to get any easier. Yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys liked, please feel free to give me a like and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.